Hello everyone, my name is Mike, and this is The Bored Cyborg. Hey, you guys ready to talk about some Rambo movies? Okay? They don't stink! Welcome back to yet another episode. Today I am doing a ranking of the Rambo films. All 5 of them, including the newest one that just came out as of recording this video, Rambo Last Blood. I would love to know what your list looks like, guys. That's the beauty of this. Everybody's list is going to be a little bit different. Well, maybe not everybody's with only 5 movies, but I'd love to know what your list looks like, so feel free to leave that in the comments below. Let's get right to the ranking. My number 5 is sadly Rambo Last Blood, or Rambo 5, which I probably will refer to it as here on out. Rambo 5 just was a disappointment. It feels like an unnecessary sequel. It doesn't really feel connected to the Rambo movies in any way. Stallone is the reason to see this movie. He's always giving it, well, not always giving it his all, but Rambo movies, he always gives it his all. He is the foundation that sort of holds this movie together. Without him, it would be pretty shitty, to be quite honest. Not too much action, definitely the least amount of action in any Rambo film. The third act is pretty good, but the action is not lit very well, and it just sort of is all scrunched together, and it doesn't feel rewarding when it definitely should. It's a very personal movie for him. It's the first Rambo movie that doesn't really have to do with an external war. It's more a personal sort of thing that's going on. I'm not even going to say a personal war. I think 4 is more for that. It doesn't have any real callbacks to the series. It doesn't have Jerry Goldsmith's score. It just... I wish it was better. But it's not. If you're a Sly fan, see this movie for Sly. He does a great job. He still looks great. He's still motherfucking Rambo. But that is the only reason to see this movie. I didn't love this movie. I didn't hate this movie. It's just a 2.5 out of 5. It's an average, run-of-the-mill, derivative action revenge thriller with not very memorable characters, and unfortunately, it is my number 5, Rambo Last Blood. My number 4 is Rambo III. Rambo 3 I really do like. It is still a 3 out of 5 for me, and I do enjoy the film. The problems I have with it are its pacing. I think the pacing is off. It's a little longer, about 15-16 minutes longer than all of the other Rambo films, and I feel that when I'm watching it. And I think the reason is because they're trying to set up this idea, and I think they do a fine job with it, but Rambo, this is the point in the series where Rambo isn't only doing this stuff for his country. He's doing it for his fellow man. He meets some Afghani soldiers who are being slaughtered by the Russians, and he stands up for them. And I think it's a good character development sort of thing. You know, it makes us feel like, let's go America, kind of thing. It's like, in Rambo 3, he's a hero of humanity, not just a hero of the United States. So, I like what they did with his character, but like I said, the pacing is off. There are a few new characters that are introduced and have potential to be fleshed out and developed, like the little kid, or even his companion that sort of gets him into the Russian base, and they never really go anywhere. In fact, their arcs just sort of fizzle out and die. It is great to see Troutman and Rambo kind of team up during the third act, which, of course, all these Rambo films have good to fantastic third acts. Rambo 3 is no exception, and I do like the film, but it is my number 4. That's Rambo 3. My number 3 Rambo film is Rambo, or Rambo 4. I really, really like Rambo 4. Almost love. Some days, sometimes I watch it and I love it. Other days I'm like, oh, this is just a great action movie that I really like. It's bordering between like and love. It's a solid 3.5 out of 5, and I really do dig it. It follows Sly, who is basically resorted to sort of a peaceful fishing sort of business that is kind of outside of the countries that, or a country that is having a brutal civil war, based on an actual civil war. Actually, a lot of the Rambo films are concurrent, happening with actual wars. So he's just kind of a peaceful fisherman at this point. Some Christian missionaries who just want to help the impoverished, the men, women, and children that are caught up in the war. They want to go in to the battlegrounds in way over their head and help these people. So their hearts are in the right place, and that's what Rambo sees in them, and he wants to help them. So he ferries them into this conflict zone, and shit gets crazy. Rambo has to suit up once again and defend his fellow man, and it's a great Rambo film. Honestly, I hate to say this, you guys know I want to love every movie. I wish the series ended with Rambo 4. It's really kind of a perfect ending. We didn't need Rambo 5, and after seeing it, I really feel that way, unfortunately, even though I was excited for it. Rambo 4 is my number 3. I really, really like it, / love it, and that is Rambo 4. My number 2, one of my favorite action movies of the 80s, hands down, is Rambo First Blood Part 2. Rambo First Blood Part 2, which is always a mouthful, is directed by a fantastic 80s action director. That is George Cosmatos, father of Panos Cosmatos, by the way, who did Mandy and Beyond the Black Rainbow. George Cosmatos, in my opinion, did no wrong in the 80s. Of unknown origin, he got a chance to do a big budget movie with Rambo, or First Blood Part 2. He knocks it out of the park, in my opinion. Then he did Cobra. He did Tombstone a few years later, Leviathan, of course. Just, I love the man's work. He was taken from us way too soon. Really great, underrated action director. First Blood Part 2 follows Rambo, who is, after the first film, he's put in sort of a prison camp where he's just working all the livelong day, like, pickaxing rocks, and he's gonna be there for a long time. Troutman, of course, has an opportunity to get Rambo out of there, so in the beginning of the film, he does just that. Rambo is reluctant to fight again, but he wants out of this prison place, and if it's for a good cause, he's all for it. So he gets sent into Vietnam to find and export the POWs that are still in the country. And of course, this is 10, 15 years after the wars ended. There's some covering up going on with Murdoch's character. The plan all along is to send Rambo in to make the American people feel better about the fact that we're trying to get the POWs out, but Murdoch never has plans to actually see this come into fruition. He thinks it's impossible. Of course, he doesn't know motherfucking Rambo, so Rambo runs up in that bitch, and we have action set piece after action set piece. They're all fantastic. The action flows like a river in this movie. Once it starts, it doesn't let up. The slowest part of this film is in the first 10 minutes, and it's not even slow because there's some good character building. We're meeting a new character, seeing Troutman again. The rest of this film is just non-stop action, and it's well fucking done. That is the thing. The set pieces, the boat set piece, the jungle set piece where we really see Rambo become Rambo, and we see the foundations for Metal Gear Solid with Solid Snake, where he's sneaking around, dragging bodies, killing people clandestinely. Rambo 2 is the movie where Rambo becomes an action hero. I love it for that. James Cameron, he knows how to write an action film. He's the one who wrote this script with Sly Stallone, and it shows. It flows like a Cameron film. And the Cosmatos-Cameron team-up, screenwriter-director team-up works so goddamn well. I fucking love Rambo 2, as you could probably tell. I could watch this movie at any point and always have a good time. Explosive arrows. The explosions in this movie, glorious to say the least. There's so many of them. I love all of the action. The third act is insane. I could talk about it forever, and I'm rambling. Rambo 2. Rambling. Rambo. See what I did there? And, of course, my number 1, you could figure it out, obviously, by now, is the first Rambo film, First Blood. This movie is so unlike the rest of the series. This is a very personal movie about a Vietnam War vet who is obviously suffering from PTSD. This movie captures that better than any of the other films where he's just a gung-ho action hero, which I love, by the way. But in this, there are moments, there's this scene that always sticks out where the cops are interrogating him, they're giving him a hard time in the beginning of the film. He starts to flash back to the war, and certain things that the cops are doing remind him of the war, and there's so much that could be said about that dichotomy, right? It starts strobing in and out through to this like sort of Vietnamese general of some sort. And it's like strobing back and forth. It's really cool editing. And you could see his eyes, and he's just he's falling back into that violent nature again, something that he doesn't want to do. He's just trying to live a peaceful life. The cops are giving him a hard time, and this is very telling of the time. I didn't live during the Vietnam, the post-Vietnam era, of course. I was born in '88, but reading about it, this film seems to really capture how a certain segment of the American population felt about our veterans coming back and about the war in general. They felt like it was a useless war, and I'm not going to go into all that, but they took it out on the veterans, and this film really encapsulates those ideas. Stallone is in top-notch form here. I mean, talk about Rocky, you talk about First Blood. His performance in this is so goddamn perfect. It is stoic, it is heartfelt, it is poignant. His monologue at the end of the film, which had to be mostly improvisation, where he's talking about his buddy's guts all over him, and he's squealing and whimpering like a vulnerable dude, you know, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it, talking about it. But throughout the film, he's very strong, very stoic, and he's doing what he sees he has to do to survive when he's pushed into a corner. The end of that film, the last 10 minutes where he's doing his monologue, it just really, he opens up as a character, and we really see the true John Rambo. What the war did to him, what the war continues to do to the country, to the people. It's a fascinating film about the human condition, and about what war does to an individual, and about how the society treats veterans. And it's a very special film. None of the other Rambos are like it. It stands in a area on its own two legs, and it is my favorite Rambo film for all of those reasons and more. I gotta mention too, the last time I watched it in preparation for this video a few days ago, it reminded me so much of The Predator. I know the Thomas brothers were inspired by Rambo First Blood, especially the scenes in the jungle, in the forest, you know, where they're hunting him. They all think they're badass, but little do they know something is out to get them, and it's going to get them quicker than they can even react. So it reminded me a lot of Predator in so many ways. Maybe I'll make a video one day thinking about it, or talking about it. And you gotta love Troutman. You know, Troutman throughout this series is always sort of the voice of reason, and sort of the bridge that gaps the soldier to the bureaucrat. He's, you know, Troutman's sort of in the middle, and so he's playing sort of both sides, but he always comes out doing the right thing. And you gotta love his little quips, you know, things like, if you plan to bring that many men, then you better make sure you have a healthy supply of body bags. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but that line, God would have mercy, Rambo doesn't. You know, those kind of lines. Troutman, Richard Crenna is the man in these movies, and I had to mention him because he's fantastic in First Blood and all of the other Rambo films. Rambo First Blood is my #1 Rambo film of all time, and that is not to say I don't enjoy the rest of the Rambo films, because I do, except really for the last one, number 5. I love all the Rambo films for different reasons, but First Blood is a damn near masterpiece, and it is my #1. I just want to thank you guys for checking out my ranking of the Rambo films, all 5 of them up to this point, including Last Blood. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to know what your list looks like, so please feel free to leave it in the comments below, and we could get a little discussion rolling. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, as well as the little bell for notifications. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg, out. You know?